It doesn't get more New York than Rosanna Scotto, main anchor at Good Day New York, successful restaurateur, social media savant. She does it all. It was so fun and an honor to hang with Ro. Here's our next level conversation. All right, there's the Statue of Liberty, there's the Brooklyn Bridge, and then there's Rosanna Scotto,
Lady,
a New York legend.
You were too kind, and that was way too generous, and you have my job, okay? I used to do the 10 o'clock news, and you do it with such grace and thoughtfulness every night.
That's so much high praise coming from you. It means the world to me. You know, when I got the job, so many people asked me, they're like, forget Fox 5. You're going to be with Rosanna Scotto?
Oh, stop it.
I'm like, I'm going to be with Rosanna Scotto. And when I joined, you were the first person who I was on air with. I had my debut.
That's right. Oh, yeah. We did a little talk.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And I had to say, I was very intimidated to meet you.
Really?
Very. And
Why?
then when I met you, it's like you're warm, you're so kind, you're so welcoming. But I imagine somewhere in this industry, like, you got to be tough.
You got to be tough to survive as long as I have. And I
39 years?
Oh, my. Stop putting a number to it, Natasha.
I did my research.
I did not. You know, around here, I could be a moving target. So just say I've been here a while, a few years.
Yeah.
I've seen things come and go. But first of all, when you came in, I was so impressed with, just how serious you were about the job, which I was so happy about, because I feel like when anchoring the 10 o'clock news is a very special place in the history of the station. So I was just happy you took it seriously.
And I remember hearing some interview you did, or when you just you're very anecdotal on Good Day, and I remember you saying, like, your parents used to watch you on the 10 o'clock news, and it'd be like, you know, where are your kids at, 10 o'clock? And your mom and dad would say,
she's right there, which was fun, you know. And, you know, I came here. I was single. Mm-hmm. I got married here.
Wow.
I had kids here. It's crazy. My kids know every corner of Fox 5. They probably know places you and I don't.
Yeah.
Because they would explore while I was on the air. They would explore every hallway and office and stuff like that.
I love that. How long were you doing the 10 for?
So when I first came here, I was a reporter, a freelance reporter. And so I did 10 o'clock news, I'm going to say for 20 years.
Okay. 20 years.
So I reported for a bunch of years, and then I was given a contract. I got married, had babies soon after. And, you know, it was kind of interesting, the juggle, because when I came here, TV news, just in general, was still like run by men, you know.
Yeah.
And I was given like the feature reports, the lifestyle reports, none of the hard hitting news. And you had to have, you had to fight for it a little bit.
You had to have guts.
Yeah, you had to fight for a little bit. And I was just waiting for an opportunity to kind of have a leg up. And I think being a native New Yorker, eventually I was going to come to a story that I had the contact for. And that was the Preppy murder trial. Now, a long time ago, this young man and young woman were friends. They were in high school getting ready to go off to college. They were at Dorian's Red Hand Bar on 2nd Avenue. They met. They went to Central Park. Reports are they had sex, and reports are that he killed her. And I wound up knowing her family.
Wow.
And so I was able to bring their part of the story to our Fox 5 viewers at the time. And that was the beginning, I would say, when I got on the map of my boss's...
The radar.
The radar
that
for
was
my
the big
boss.
break.
It was a big break.
And it was just a matter of time. Is that what it is?
It was just a matter of time, you know. Listen, you have to work hard. You have to be ready for the breaks.
How did you stay ready?
You just have to be involved in New York. And I know that you're doing this too.
Yeah, this is not a podcast. This is actually just like I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
And like
you do it because you do it instinctually, because part of getting to know the community, obviously I grew up here, but part of getting to know the community is getting out into the community. And that's getting involved in the various charities out there. And I know you have your charity.
Yeah.
We walked the runway for you.
You did so good.
That was so
Will
nice.
you do it again this year?
Of course.
Okay, amazing.
You need like a fat person there for the runway?
Who are we talking about? I know she's not in this room.
Oh, stop it. Anyway, but I think part of like, getting to know the community is getting to know what's important to them.
Yes.
And that's the charitable work. And you get to meet people.
Right.
And that's it. You're ready. And being present at work, you know, being, volunteering for things, having that hunger. I'm a news hound. Like when I go home, I'm constantly switching the channels, looking at various news stations, see what they have, see what we don't have, see what we need to have.
Yeah.
I love it to this day. I'm very, very passionate.
Do you ever have to detach though?
I try to do that when I go on vacation.
Okay.
But it's a mild detach.
Yeah.
It's like I'll say, okay, for a few hours I'm going to put the phone away.
Right.
I'm not going to watch.
But if it buzzes, I am going to look.
I'm not going to watch cable news, but I'm going to give myself an hour, like to get everything, just to know what's happening in the world.
So you're doing the 10 o'clock news. Well, you get this big break, and then soon after, do you get a call for the 10? How does that work?
So what happens is we had someone who was leaving the weekend show.
Okay.
And they asked if I wanted to do, I think it was just, did I do Saturday and Sunday? Yeah, I did Saturday and Sunday. I did Saturday and Sunday. I anchored the 10 o'clock news and reported then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Pretty good schedule.
Yeah.
Off Thursday and Friday. And Saturday and Sunday, didn't have to come in till 3 o'clock, lived around the block.
It
Sometimes took
Easy.
the kids in to work with me on Saturday and Sunday, which they liked. And it just the juggle is hard. The juggle is hard for women because even though
ask you about that,
we want to be, business women, we still have that maternal instinct.
Right.
And we want to do everything. And we want to do what our parents, our mothers did for us. And so we kind of changed that a little bit. But
was that bringing the kids to your workplace? That's something that
bit.
my mom actually would do when I was growing up with my dad, like go to the hospital with them. And it's definitely not as fun eating hospital food, but at least we got to play like hide and seek with my dad and see what he was up to and kind of make it fun.
Make it fun. And I think it's important for the kids to see the work ethic, right? And give them an opportunity to see what you do when you leave them. And I can't believe, I've had so many reincarnations here doing the 10. So I did the weekends.
Yep.
And then when I was pregnant with my son, they offered me the 10 o'clock news from Monday through Friday.
Okay.
And it was a fantastic job.
It was job security.
And I worked with John Rowland, who was a legend in the business. And he taught me a lot about writing and communicating. And I still think about some of the things that he says. And so I did that for a number of years and kind of toyed with coming to the mornings. And the mornings are a different beast than the 10 o'clock news. 10 o'clock news is kind of scripted, pretty much scripted. And the morning show is just, you may have some scripts, but you have to know everything from newsmakers to Busta Rhymes.
Yeah, right.
This is who could be on your show. You could have Mayor Adams, you could have Jenna Dewan, you could have Busta Rhymes, and then I'm cooking meatballs. Okay? So you
your
gotta,
family.
You got to be fast on your feet.
Yep. How was that transition like to go to mornings? 'Cause
It
that's
was
like
tough.
it's going from like you get to work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to now waking up at what time do you wake up?
4:30.
Oof.
Yeah.
And I did morning show for a while, so
you know the
I
difference.
understand the difference. But
So doing the 10 o'clock news is not easy either, okay?
you're up late, very
You're
late.
up late. And I remember coming home and like watching all the late night comic shows
Yeah.
by myself.
It's hard to like go back to sleep,
Right. And then having that energy at 10 o'clock news.
right.
For the 10 o'clock news.
The adrenaline, yeah.
You have to learn how to just keep it calm until that moment.
Right. Yeah, I remember my first week here, I was like yawning and I looked over at Steve Lacy and I'm like, I'm yawning at 9 o'clock. I'm in trouble. What's going on? Like, but you can't really drink coffee because then you're going to be screwed when you get home. You know, you can't go to sleep. So waking up early, was that a total lifestyle change? Or
It was
it
a total
easier?
lifestyle change. The good part was that you pretty much get up and you do the job. Now, there's still a lot of work to be done after the show. I help with the booking. Sometimes I go out and do interviews. I recently went out and did an interview with George Clooney. And that was so much fun.
How was that?
He's so charming.
Yeah.
It's on my Instagram. I think we got over 1.5 million hits.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Because he was just so charming.
You just kind of get lost in his eyes.
He's dreamy.
How do you focus when like someone is so dreamy talking to you?
I don't even know how I did it because I had an idea in my head how I wanted the interview to go. I didn't have any notes.
Yeah.
And then I just went with it, I just like whatever came into my mind. I just asked him like, do you smoke in this play? Yeah. Like, so did you lose weight because you were smoking now?
Right.
And he's like, what's wrong with
like,
you?
Are you okay?
It was really kind of like free flowing.
Yeah.
Some of it worked, some of it didn't. But so the job doesn't end when the show ends.
Right.
So there's interviews to be done. Sometimes I'm booking things. And then there's researching for the next day. So it really is, it's a lot.
Wait, there's not just that. I mean, you are running a family business. Fresco by Scotto.
Yes.
I see your Instagram posts. They start at like, I'm watching your stories starting at like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. where you're telling me what's going on good day. And then after that, I see you dancing on the streets around 10 p.m. at night. And I'm like, when is this woman sleeping? Do you sleep?
I do sleep. I'm a pretty good sleeper. I'm also a great napper.
Okay. Is that the key?
That's the key.
Okay.
But I don't, it seems like I'm out every night, and I do pretty well. I'm not going to lie. I do pretty well.
Your social life is like popping off more
but
than like
I will say,
a lot of people.
I don't drink every night.
Okay.
That helps getting up the next morning. And there's plenty of times I go out and I'm home by 8:30. Okay. Friday and Saturday is not 8:30.
Yeah.
Friday and Saturday, it's disco nap in the afternoon, and then we're up till whenever we're up to.
Yeah.
But so Fresco by Scotto in Midtown Manhattan, 31 years.
Amazing.
So my mother opened it up. She mortgaged the house in Brooklyn because she wanted to do like a family business. She, my brother, my sister Elena, and myself. But I was always like the one who was like the schmoozer. I didn't do like the day-to-day work. Now, my sisters moved, my brothers moved, my mother is older, and now I'm running the business with my daughter Jenna and my son LJ. And I've really given them basically the keys. Because one, it's always good to get new blood in there and some new ideas. And two, I can't do it.
My biggest question is like, where do you find the energy? How do you sustain the energy?
I am one of these high energy people anyway, and it's like, my mother too. And as a kid, they would always say, "Oh, what do you have, ants in the pants?" Because I couldn't sit still. I was always performing, even when I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And some things don't change.
Yeah.
But I, like I said, while it seems like I'm just like living a crazy life, I'm very disciplined.
Yeah, it comes down to like that routine, I'm sure. So being back home at 8:30 is is huge.
It really helps.
How important is family?
Everything. Family's everything. So it just stems from my parents, the Sunday meal, which I have now, I try to take it on. I'm not saying I do every Sunday. There's plenty of Sundays that I do. The kids like it. I have a grandkid now, and at some point we're going to teach him how to make meatballs.
What does she call you? What does he call you? Gigi?
He can't say anything right now.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
But he loves me. I could tell. Gigi. I'm going to be Gigi. I didn't want to be like in the beginning. People were like, "Oh, why don't you call yourself Grandma?" That was a little too much.
Grandma.
Grandma.
Okay, that's a lot.
I didn't want to be Grandma.
Okay.
I'm not, I'm not the grandma type.
Yeah.
I like the, my grandchild, and I like giving him back.
Yeah. Because you got the news to do in the morning.
I got the news to do in the morning.
This was something I asked you before this, but I always know, because when I watch Good Day, I'm always thinking like, where's the line? Like, where's that metaphorical line of like where you cross? Like, how do you know is there a line?
So in the morning, the line is blurred.
Yeah.
The line is really blurred. Like, I've said like some crazy things on the show, which there have been a few times that I've regretted. Do you want me to say one of them?
Of course.
Okay. So one time Tori Spelling and Jenny Garth were on the show.
Okay.
And, Tori, I'm not going to describe how she is, but you know how she is, right? She, there's been a lot of reports about her and her mother and the money and lack of, and I had known something before she came on, and I knew that she was, can you curse on the show?
Yeah.
Okay. Bullshitting me.
Yeah.
And I kind of called her out a little bit, and it did not go well. She was very upset. Then her husband, went on Instagram and social media, other social media platforms, said other things about me, and I should have been a little bit more classy about how I approached it. And, then we have like newsmakers on our show all the time. Yeah. And I feel like when the politicians come on, frankly, it's fair game. There are no rules. And sometimes, I can ask some very tough questions.
And you do.
And I do.
Yeah, you go there where a lot of people don't.
I just feel because I'm a New Yorker and I don't consider myself one political party or the other. I consider myself a New Yorker. And so a lot of things frustrate me and anger me, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
New York does seem to have its own political party in and of itself, right, in a lot of ways.
Well, I feel like New York has changed a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How has it changed?
Well, right now I feel like we're trying to find the right, road.
Yeah.
But it's been crazy after COVID, obviously. We're celebrating or not celebrating.
Just
kind of
marking.
memorializing 5 years.
Crazy. I can't believe it's been 5 years.
During that time, we had on Mary Lou Henner. She's got this crazy memory. She's
yes,
I
know. I've actually interviewed her on the 6th.
She's unbelievable. Yeah. And she came on the show and she said, Rosanna, try to get some kind of video every day to memorialize this, because your mind will go blank at some point. It'll just wash over this period. And so I did. I would walk around the streets of New York and see people like boarding up their stores and empty stores and people walking around with masks. And you forget how different New York was. It was silent and scary, and yet there were so many heroes. At 7 o'clock, people were banging those drums and pots and pans out the window. I mean, you forget all those little nuances that kept us going during that time.
Yeah, and all the lines around the block for the liquor stores.
Lines. And then the food lines. I hate to say it, I saw food lines too, which were really sad.
It was hard. I was in Denver during that time, so it was just very isolating. Did you do the news from here, or were you from home?
So no, we were on the air. At that time, Laurie Stokes was my partner, and we rotated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We rotated every other day, and on the off day, we would do lots of Zoom interviews because everything was Zoom. So we would do Zooms with celebrities and politicians and tape it and then use it for the next day that we were on.
You've seen the TV news industry evolve over time. I see you on social media, and you truly were an early adapter of social media. At what point did you realize, like, wow, this is going to be a powerful tool?
You know what? Obviously, we talked to a lot of interesting people. Gary Vaynerchuk was on our show. He told me how he grew his family's business by doing social media. I was encouraged by my bosses here, Lou Leone, big proponent on social media. I sometimes live tweet or X during Good Day New York. I do something on Instagram before I start the show, giving kind of a rundown of what we're going to do in the next 3 hours. I think it's important to be there to respond to people. It's different. Like, you're taking that wall away. And now you're so accessible with your audience, and you can actually answer their questions in real time. And, sometimes when you say something wrong, right away how they feel. Please hold back sometimes.
They tell you.
You hurt my feelings.
Is there a platform you see that's like that you found most success on?
It's funny, you see the different personalities. X can be very mean.
Very mean.
And so you have to
nasty.
And nasty. You have to be able to resist responding.
Okay.
In a negative way. Instagram is very loving, I feel. And TikTok is fun. I'm still like getting myself, like it's a lot of work.
I find TikTok to be very raw. It's like they don't want to see the filters and the edits.
Yes.
It's like literally like the videos I take of myself, like, hey guys, what should I do today? Like looking so not a good angle, whatever, just raw.
They like that.
They like that. They're like, oh, that's a different, that's like, people just want to, I think at the end of the day, people just want to feel like they're with someone, and they feel that through social media.
Yeah. And
they don't feel lonely.
And I think, that's different. That's what the news business has evolved in, having that one-on-one with our audience.
You're very direct, obviously, and you're so authentic, and it's just like you when you're on air. It's just who you are. Did that take a process to find your voice?
Yes, it did. So I don't know what advice you got when you started in the business, but one of my first pieces of advice was be yourself. Be yourself when you're 20-something years old.
It's like, who am I, right?
And it's hard. Not only you don't even know who you are, but you're trying to figure out, okay, I need to be serious. I need to be credible because I want, I have a very serious job. Right. And at that time when I started, like, the news was the news, okay? And you had to have a certain number of years that you worked the business and contacts. They really, it was different than it is now. And I had the accent, and and the accent is very much a part of my personality.
Yes, it is.
And so when I first started, I worked at Eyewitness News, and they sent me to a voice coach. And then when I came over, I was fired by Eyewitness News.
Why?
We called it an ethnic cleansing at that time. They kind of got rid of anybody who was too ethnic there. Eyewitness News was like the first, like...
You're Italian.
Yeah. Eyewitness News was the first one where you had a black person, you had a Puerto Rican, you had Italian American, you had Asian, like literally, and they kind of like, brought in other people at that point. But it was okay. It was okay. One door closes, another one opens.
Absolutely.
It was a learning lesson before I got the job.
How old were you at the time?
I was 27.
Okay.
26.
Yeah.
And it was
heartbreaking
devastating
in the moment, obviously.
because I was engaged.
Oh, God.
And I was like, where am I going to wind up?
Yeah.
Am I going to have a long distance marriage?
Yeah.
And then Channel 5 called me on St. Patrick's Day and said, we got a lot of people who called out sick. I said, okay, I'm in. Wear my green top. I'm coming to work. And I started freelance, and I have been here ever since.
Yeah.
The luck of the Irish. But getting back to that voice coach, I then continued the voice coach here.
Okay.
And at one point she just said, I give up. Because the more I talked like I didn't have an accent, the more I talked like I didn't have an accent, I couldn't have the personality that went along with it.
Right. It just hits different with no accent and the inflection and everything.
Yeah.
So you just said, at that point, you're like, I just got to embrace who I am.
And that's when it did. And it took years.
Yeah.
It took years.
And it is a very fine balance that I see you do, where it's like, I feel like you, like even today with like the AI, the robot story that you did in the morning, and I'm like, I wonder what Ro's going to say about that, because the first thing I think is like, yeah, touch. Like, how are you going to have like a physical relationship with your AI chatbot? And I'm like, I wonder if she's going to talk about it. Yeah, you went all in, you know?
Went all in.
All in, right?
And more.
And more. And I think that's great. I think that's the relatability.
And
right?
the mornings are different than evenings. People are just waking up. They're in your home. You're in their home. It's a delicate balance of giving them the news and entertaining them at the same time, and sharing, your secrets, your problems, without overloading too much. Because everybody's got problems. They don't need yours.
Right.
So you give them a little taste.
A little trauma dump taste.
Little taste. Yeah.
Do you get recognized a lot on the street when you go out?
Yes.
How often is that?
A lot.
Like getting out of this building, what's it like?
A lot.
Yeah. They're like,
you know what?
We love you.
It's so sweet. I'll have people beeping the horn. I'll have people asking to take photographs, shaking hands. And it's a beautiful thing. There are days, I will tell you, when I have no makeup on and I just want to go to the bathroom, or, like I'm running to the bathroom, or I want to go get a cup of coffee, and somebody's like, can I take a picture? And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then they can't find their phone, and then they got to put it on, and then they got to like erase some photos so that they have memory. And I'm like, I got to the bathroom. But it's always nice, I mean, to be recognized and to have people like you. I'm grateful for that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely incredible. Main anchor at Good Day, Fresco by Scotto. You're the head of that, running it. What's next for you?
Well, I've been doing some correspondent work over at Fox News.
I've seen.
I've done 2 documentaries on the migrant situation in New York. I've hosted or co-hosted some of their shows. I don't know, the doors are open, I just, you have to be open to what your next step might be.
Do you ever think about like what's next, or do you kind of go with the flow?
No, I think about what's next.
Really?
Yeah, you got to be ready.
Yeah.
You got to be ready.
I feel like that's always been the theme in your life.
Yeah. I talked to Ryan Seacrest once, and I said to him, wow, you're doing all these crazy things and sitting on Money Mountain. Like, how did that happen? He said, I said yes to everything. And so I say yes to everything. Sometimes when I don't want to say yes, I say yes. But you got to open your mind. You got to put your toe in the water, and you got to be willing to change.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you said yes to doing this podcast with me.
Then why did I say yes to this?
I know.